There's quite a bit that needs to be gotten off my chest throughout the course of this production. So I might be here for a little while. Therefore, I would advise every one of you to listen to me very carefully. Let me start this off by running down my usual formation. For those of you who are watching this production, then give me the thumbs up, get my likes up. Furthermore, share this production. As I've told y'all for over 5 years now that YouTube has placed this channel on a shadow ban, which has hindered my growth concerning views and subscriptions are concerned. And for those who would like to show support for the productions made on this channel, then you can feel free to do so via the links in the description box. Now, with that being stated, let me start this off by addressing a situation that had taken place earlier this year. I believe it was back in April, with the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. And I've sat down and I've watched a lot of stuff pertaining to this situation that has taken place. I've listened to multiple different perspectives. However, there is still a lot of information that we still do not have. A lot of information that has conveniently been omitted from the reports. But I'm seeing people give a premature conclusion without having all the facts. Now, just looking at what I've seen thus far, I mean, recently, I believe it was about a week ago, there was some video footage that was released of what happened, of the fatal stabbing at that track meet the day Carmelo Anthony stabbed one of the twin brothers, Austin Metcalf. And I don't want to labor too long within what happened. Many of y'all have already heard of this. But the video footage that was released was video footage all the way across the field from a stationary camera. Now, from what I understand is that several cell phones were confiscated that held video footage of what happened the day of that fatal stabbing. The fact that you have the mainstream media going out here and attempting to give this questionable footage that is, well, not even questionable, it's unlegible. You can't make out what actually happened. And the fact that a lawyer would stamp his name to something that is clearly unlegible, just furthermore, it's giving me to say, all right, there's more that you're hiding with this here. And if this were an open shut case of first degree murder, premeditated murder, if they actually had something that they can solidly work with, then there's no reason to pull out footage like this, especially when you can pull from multiple different cell phones that were confiscated from that event to where you can actually showcase what actually happened the day of that fatal stabbing. So just simply taking a look at this, I'm leaning more toward that this was self-defense on Carmelo Anthony's behalf. According to what the police report stated, and according to what Hunter Metcalf, which is the younger twin brother of Austin Metcalf, this is out of his own mouth, stated that he was sitting in his seat and he heard somebody talking behind him, and he turned around and saw Carmelo Anthony, told him that he couldn't stay there, that he had to leave. And then his older twin brother, Austin Metcalf, got involved with the situation, and that's when everything got physical. The fact that they are trying to spin this into a premeditated murder case, which you know you can't run with that. You know that charge doesn't even fit, or let alone stick, only furthermore lets me know that you're dealing with people who are trying to frame a narrative to get you to look at it as something that is not. Even though it's on the police report, it completely contradicts first degree or premeditated murder. You would have to prove that Carmelo Anthony showed up with the intent to murder Austin Metcalf. And according to the report, Carmelo Anthony was assaulted 2 times before he responded with lethal force. And maybe we can't even say lethal force, he just stabbed him and ran. Now, you had one, what's his name, Charleston White, who pretty much threw Carmelo Anthony under the bus when this whole thing happened. Now, I've never heard of Charleston White prior to this. I don't know who he is. But I do remember seeing his perspective on it. And at some point, I just couldn't listen to it. Because once again, you have people giving their premature conclusion before they even, or without even having all of the facts. And looking at how the mainstream media is conveniently omitting information, that right there should have you questioning what you are listening to. But nonetheless, Charleston White initially threw Carmelo Anthony under the bus. Then a few days ago, Charleston White came out and did a complete 180, stating that he was all the way wrong about Carmelo Anthony. That Carmelo Anthony did not bring a knife to the track meet. So, the thing is, there's so much pertaining to this case that we still don't know. I mean, from what I could have sworn I seen something about they recovered a knife. I don't know what the hell happened, what took place. So there's no way in hell that I can give a premature conclusion to what actually happened. Also, in addition to that, Charleston White was talking about how the Metcalf twins practicing mixed martial arts, I believe it was jiu-jitsu. Now, this is according to what he stated. Now, that wouldn't be too far-fetched or a far stretch of the imagination based off of some of the photographs you see with these 2 twin brothers. They knew how to use firearms. So, it's like I said, it's not a far stretch of the imagination to believe that, okay, they had some kind of mixed martial arts background or training. But what people are saying is, well, if everyone wants to say that this is a self-defense case, then you can only respond with equal force. This is what people are stating. Well, if what I just stated is true about the mixed martial arts, that would just be another one into the bucket list to add on to. At what point in time do you constitute you're facing a deadly threat? I mean, according to what people have been saying, the height and weight of Carmelo Anthony, initially I heard 5'7" and 135 pounds. And I said, that's kind of small for an athletic boy at the age of 17. Now I'm hearing stuff saying that he's 5'7" and 150 pounds, which more or less makes sense. I can believe that. The Metcalf twins, from what I'm hearing, Austin Metcalf was about 6'2" and anywhere from 220 to 225 pounds. This is just what I've heard several times on mainstream media. And his younger brother, Hunter Metcalf, which was roughly around the same size. So if this is true, you have 2 twin brothers who are well above the size and height of the average man. The average man comes at about 5'9", probably 170, 185 pounds, maybe 190, maybe 200. But I wouldn't even say, no, I would say 200 is above average. But the average man comes at about that size, 5'9", 180 pounds. These 2 boys were well above the height and size of the average man. And then when you factor in, okay, that they were trained in mixed martial arts, trained on how to use firearms, at what point do y'all say, well, this is a deadly threat? Now, Carmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf initially 1 time. Well, he stabbed him 1 time. That's just what it was. And fled. He stabbed him and ran. He didn't keep stabbing him. He didn't keep Going in, he stabbed him and he fled. That right there showcased, and this took place after Carmelo Anthony stated, according to what the police reports are saying and according to what many people online have stated, that Carmelo told him, touch me and see what happens, after they told him to move. And with that response, that's not an invitation, that is a warning to let you know that if you put your hands on me, there are going to be consequences. And they were warned and informed 2 times. After assaulting Carmelo Anthony 1 time, or better yet, doing it 2 times before he finally responded by using whatever it was that he stabbed Austin Metcalf with. So now Charleston White is saying he didn't bring a knife to the track meet. So the question is, what was it? There's just so much that we don't know pertaining to this case. And furthermore, when you factor in human behavior, Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf were twin brothers. You know what I mean? If they were inseparable, then I would find it hard to believe that in a situation to where Hunter Metcalf initially told Carmelo Anthony, hey, you can't be here. And then his older brother, Austin Metcalf, got involved once he realized what was going on. I don't think that the twin brother or younger brother would just sit idly by in his seat and let his older brother, Austin Metcalf, deal with that situation. Just the way human behavior works, okay, if 2 people are out and they're chilling with each other and they come across a problem, both of them are dealing with that problem. That's just typically how that works. So my question would be, in this scenario, in this instance, what was his younger brother, Hunter Metcalf, doing as this whole physical altercation ensued? Was he just standing idly by? Was he physically involved with what actually happened? You see, I'm leaning more toward the fact that this could be a matter of self-defense. However, I'm not putting it out here, even though this is what I think could have happened, I'm not putting it out here in definite terms that this is what actually happened. Because I have enough wits about me to give the case enough respect to understand that all the facts have not fully been presented. And if you don't have all the goddamn facts, you don't come up with a premature conclusion. Once again, I'm leaning toward that this is looking more or less like self-defense from Carmelo Anthony. But I'm not simply saying that, well, this is definitely self-defense. Now, when you listen to the detractors, people like the Black Conservative Perspective, the Hodge twins, a host of these other Negroes who get online and run their mouth, they're going to just say that Carmelo Anthony committed murder. The Black Conservative Perspective came online and stated that Carmelo Anthony was sitting in the seat of the Metcalf twins. This is what he stated. Now, that's a complete contradiction, and this is not coming from me. This is not my opinion. This is a contradiction just based off of what Hunter Metcalf stated. And what did I say when I first mentioned how this whole thing took place? Hunter Metcalf stated that he heard somebody behind him, and he turned around and seen Carmelo Anthony. And I believe he said this as he was sitting in his seat. So if he's sitting in his seat and hears somebody behind him and he turns around to confront the person that's behind him, how was Carmelo Anthony sitting in their seats? According to the Hodge bootlicks, they're running around saying that Carmelo Anthony was stealing things from underneath that tent. Now, everybody has a problem. They say, well, he brought a knife illegally into school. Well, now we really don't even know what the hell happened and what it was, because nothing has been confirmed. And the thing is, this was not at the school. This was at a public track meet. Now, if this is there's certain questions that I would ask in pertaining to that. If this was a knife that he brought into school or brought into this track meet with him, my question is, okay, where was the track meet located at? Was it located next to school grounds? Or was it located a few blocks away or a couple of miles away? Who knows? And if it was located, whether it be on school grounds or next to school grounds or quite a distance away from school grounds, was it under school jurisdiction is what I want to know. Because if it wasn't on school grounds and it's not affiliated with the school, it's just an event that several schools come to once a year or however many times a year they choose to come to have an event, then that might mean that it's not under school jurisdiction. So even with the knife being there, well, we can say, okay, he can't bring it to school property, but was the track meet under school jurisdiction and under school rules and regulations? Because if it wasn't, then you can't say, well, he illegally brought a knife onto school property if it was a knife to begin with. Once again, there's a lot we don't know about this case. And let's just say, if it was school grounds, then they got a case to say, okay, you might be able to get a manslaughter charge. You're not going to get murder. It's just, there's nothing about this constitutes murder. Somebody that Carmelo Anthony planned to go there. Oh yeah, I'm going to get that Metcalf guy. They didn't do that. He didn't do that. He was physically provoked. He was being attacked. He was assaulted 2 times before he finally responded. If he wanted to kill Austin Metcalf, he probably would have done it the first time they turned around and initially confronted him. He didn't do that. He gave them a warning. Touch me and see what happens. Then they put their hands on him, or Austin Metcalf, according to what they're saying. Notice that the language is very vague. And this is another reason why I'm not trusting what's coming out of the mainstream media. Because they stated, okay, Austin Metcalf then touched Carmelo Anthony. How did he touch Carmelo Anthony is what I want to know. Was it a tap on the shoulder? Did he poke him on the forearm? Did he push him? Did he shove him? Did he punch him? What did he do? Describe that touch. You had eyewitnesses there. How come we haven't heard what this touch was? Notice how they're being very vague. And this is typically what the mainstream media does in order to frame things in a way that they want it to be, so that way they can spin the narrative the way they want to. Oh, see? Carmelo Anthony, he was the aggressor. Okay, well, there's a lot that you're not explaining. And then, like I said, when you listen to the black conservative bootlicks that get online and literally just start lying, just blatantly lying, it's just disgusting what y'all actually do. And then you listen to the conservative twins, formerly known as the Hodge twins, but fucking jokes. 2 goofy ass comedians that failed at stand-up comedy and figure they can make their niche by trashing black people. And the thing is, I used to like the Hodge twins back in the day. But when I sit back and look at stuff like this, I'm outright and utterly embarrassed. Because once again, if the mainstream media had footage or had something that was incriminating Carmelo Anthony that they can actually run with and absolutely run with, they would have done it. Now, there's just a few more questions that I would like to ask pertaining to this situation when it comes down to the track meet location. What jurisdictions was it under? If it was under any at all. And if it was under no jurisdiction, my question is, what are the rules and regulations about that track meet? Were you allowed to bring weapons with you? Were you not allowed to bring weapons? Because if you were not allowed to bring weapons, then the next question that I would ask to follow up is, was there ever a point in time where people showed up to demonstrate things with firearms, practice for shooting ranges, or even a firearm sale, or whatever? Was there ever a point in time when that actually happened? Because if so, and the rules say that you can't bring firearms, then the next question that I would ask is, were there permits? Did they get permission from whoever runs that track meet location? Because if they didn't, then what we have is nothing more but a blatant contradiction. Now, Texas is a state where you can legally carry. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it is a stand your ground state. It's funny because the very same individuals that were talking about George Zimmerman had the right to stand his ground are now trying to tell you that Carmelo Anthony did not have the right to stand his ground and defend himself. Now, mind you, once again, the thing that works out in Carmelo Anthony's favor is he was not the aggressor. He did not approach anybody. He did not confront anybody. When he was confronted, he responded. Oh, well, he could only respond with the same amount of force. What is the same amount of force when you have a guy that is 6 feet tall, 220 to 225 pounds, who understands or knows jujitsu or some form of mixed martial arts, and you're 150 pounds at 5'9" or 7. At what point in time can you even deliver equal force to a guy that is significantly bigger than you? That outweighs you by what? But damn near 75 pounds. I mean, this is literally what they're trying to tell you. That you need to be on board with this asinine story that makes no sense. That the mainstream media is not telling you the truth about, that they are conveniently omitting information and holding back bits and pieces of evidence so they can attempt to frame it the way they want to. And if they can get enough people on board with it, then we can sell it. This is the same shit they attempted to do last year back with the 2024 election, trying to get Kamala Harris over the hump. And I told y'all then, one of the tactics that the mainstream media is using is to try to tell you that Kamala Harris had all of this support, all of this backing, all of these people and Democrats were energized, electrified, and excited to go out here to vote and support Kamala Harris. This is what they were telling you. And I looked at that and said, well, goddamn, she has a lower approval rating than Joe Biden. What, just 4 or 5 years ago when she initially tried to run for office, she was the first one to drop out before a single vote was ever even casted. And I'll be damned if I'm not seeing a repeat of the exact same bullshit they attempted to pull back in 2019, right now in 2024, or back in 2024, should I say. And I told y'all, with the way things are, there is no way in hell that she could actually win an election. She does not have the support. She did nothing to change her reputation. She did nothing to boost her favorability. Forget about popularity, because she's popular doesn't mean that you're liked. But what they were hoping is for those who were saying that, no, we're not going to support her, we're not going to vote for her, we don't want to see a Biden 2.0 administration in the White House. What they were hoping that they can do is convince enough people that, yeah, she's going to win this regardless of whether you like it or not. So you pretty much just tuck your tail in between your legs. Oh, man, she got the support. She's going to win. What can we do? That's what they were hoping for, because the moment they got people to think like that, guess what? We can move forth with the finesse. And it didn't happen. I stated as long as people stood their position, she is going absolutely nowhere. And that's exactly what happened. These are the same tactics that they attempt to use. Just like when it comes down to this grainy footage from all the way across the field from a stationary camera with no audio. Why would you attempt to use this and have a lawyer stamp his name on this shit of approval? Something that's unlegible. You can't see what actually happened, but it's a very simple tactic. If they can, all they got to do, they figure, okay, if we say that a lawyer put his name behind this, or we get some lawyer, and I got to look this guy up too, because he might be a fucking nobody. But if we can get people to say, oh, a lawyer said they seen it, oh man, Carmelo Anthony's really done, there's nothing we can do about it. That's what they're hoping for. Then they can go forth and finesse what they really want to finesse. Not showing you the actual crystal clear HD 4K video footage that came from the cell phones that they confiscated. Now they ain't even got to do that. They could just run with this grainy bullshit footage and hope that that sticks. What I'm going to say to a lot of you, especially black people, is you got to demand more. You got to really stick it to these goddamn people, because here's what some of these black bootlicks have come out and said, and I'm going to just say that some of y'all are a flat out fucking embarrassment. Seriously. I looked at one video, and these dudes, what they're doing is they're putting up these clickbait titles. Carmelo Anthony's finished. Oh, he's cooked. He's this. He's that. Okay. And one Negro put up a video. I'm sitting back and I'm watching. He said, oh, this is where it was over for Carmelo Anthony. And it's always been over him. And this is why. And he plays a video of a white girl. And I believe the news, the mainstream media news, played this video clip. And she said, well, I've always known him for fighting, but I've never known him for killing anybody. This is a surprise to me. And then that's it. Her portion of the video is done. What were some of the things that I mentioned a little while ago? A lot of the information that you're hearing, if I didn't say this part, I'll say it now. It's very vague information, meaning that you can't really There's nothing direct here, nothing specific, nothing that implicates anybody. There's information that is conveniently omitted. The mainstream media knows that if you were to present this in a courtroom with a good attorney, with a good defense attorney, they would tear that footage to shreds in a second. What is the reason why? What did she actually say? I've always known him for fighting, but I never knew him for killing anybody. Okay, who is he? And who did he kill? You see, when the mainstream media really wants to get somebody, they're going to ask direct questions, so they got something that they can absolutely work with. For all we know, this footage could have been recorded over a year ago of this girl talking about this about someone else. We don't know who she was talking about. Why? Because they only played the portion that they wanted you to hear. No, my question is this. Don't pull that bullshit. Play the entire video. I want to hear everything that she has to say. And if you can't do that, then guess what? Don't present this as evidence. Because this does not prove anything. So when black people, when you're listening to stuff like this and you see them attempting to use bullshit language, omitting information, just being very vague, no, you need to require them to be specific. We need specifics. You showing illegible or unlegible footage that can't be made out, it can't be understood, you can't even see who the hell is who. It's all the way from the other side of the track meet on a stationary camera with no audio. You can't present that in a court of law. You need to go ahead and dig up those cell phone videos from all of those cell phones that were confiscated the day this event actually took place. See, now you're actually setting forth a goddamn requirement. But see, the thing is, I expect the bootlegs to get out here and pull the bullshit that they pull. This is how y'all get paid. You got to go out here and kiss ass every chance you get. Bootlegs are a flat out embarrassment. However, there was one perspective that did kind of catch me off guard, and that was from none other than Michi X. Now, Michi X stated, well, I don't know why y'all donating to Carmelo Anthony. What he did was incredibly stupid, and he's going to jail. That's what she said. And the thing is, the comparison that she actually made. She's upset for black people donating to Michi X. For donating to Carmelo Anthony to make sure he gets a good defense. So a young teenager doesn't spend the rest of his life in jail for something that could have been self-defense. And then when I sit back and listen to her reasoning behind this, she's upset for black people donating to Carmelo Anthony and not donating to Q Butter's school. Now, for those of you who don't know who Q Butter is, some of y'all probably know who he is. I don't think he's a popular individual on YouTube. But for those of you who might not know, just think back to the late David Carroll. And this was many years ago. David Carroll made a video back in 2018. Now, remember this was around the fall of 2018. And he was talking about black men being on a panel with Cynthia G. And Cynthia G was going off referring to black men as a bunch of bitches. This is stuff she was saying. And he mentioned how black men sat on that panel as she was talking like this, and they said absolutely nothing. Not one of those black men actually checked Cynthia G. And for those of you who might not know, Q Butter was one of the very same black men who were on that panel who had listened to Cynthia G referring to, and I remember because I went and actually looked at that live stream when after he mentioned it. And I heard it for myself, her talking reckless about black men, and this man saying absolutely nothing. Just allowing her to get away with saying some of the most reckless shit imaginable. And she only got worse from that point on, up until she was shut down back in 2023, when her channel was terminated. I think it's back online now, but she doesn't pull the same numbers that she once did at that point in time. But I remember hearing it from Q Butter myself, him saying this on a live stream that Cynthia G was like a little sister to him. So here you have a black man who supports a known feminist, a bastard baby maker, and one who has an outright hatred for not only just black men, but a disdain and contempt and hatred for unborn black boys in the womb. I mean, Cynthia G was the one that started that talking. Well, no, she didn't actually. She got it from Brooklyn Blue. But she pretty much made that talking point become a trending topic about aborting black male babies. This is who Q Butter was in affiliation with for all these years as she continuously did this. And yet you mean to tell me that Michi X expects black people to get behind a black man who sits up here and co-signs a female that is literally advocating for wiping out black boys and babies? I mean, this is what she's upset about. And I'm talking about Michi X when I say this. She's upset that more black people decided to donate to Carmelo Anthony, a teenage boy who literally could have his life altered for the worse if he doesn't get a favorable outcome throughout this ordeal. And this is a teenage boy now. This is a teenage boy. Now I want you to think about this for a second. And I want to give a shout out to the new black media. I want to give a shout out to the consistent brothers that have been on YouTube really just espousing the truth. Sergeant Willie Pete being one of them. Jason Black, another one. Professor Black Truth. Even Tariq Nasheed, even though I've had my disagreements with him. But I got to give credit where credit is due, because my thing is, I don't have to like the messenger. I just care about the message. That's what it's really about to me. But these brothers have been consistent when it comes down to black empowerment. They've been consistent for being a voice for black people that actually speaks to our interests and not people trying to sell us under the goddamn river. And for a brief period of time, I thought that Michi X was a part of that. Well, I knew she wasn't a part of that, but I figured on her, she was on her own journey, speaking up on the behalf of black people. But I don't feel that same way anymore. Now, Michi X doesn't even have all of the damn facts when it comes down to the situation with Carmelo Anthony, but you're doing what the mainstream media and the dominant society wants you to do, which is come up with a premature conclusion without having all the facts. Because if it's already concluded in your mind that Carmelo Anthony is done, then guess what? They never have to present the whole situation to you. They could just dump what really happened right down the fucking drain, because you ain't gonna question them. So they love people like Michi X because it fits their narrative. She's already come up with that conclusion. At a bare minimum, you should be asking, I need to see all the goddamn footage. I need to know everything that actually took place. But once again, now we're starting to see what she's really upset about. She's more upset with black people donating to Carmelo Anthony to try to get him out of prison versus Q Butter, who's a grown-ass man. And listen, man, at this point in time, either you have figured it out or you haven't. But it ain't up to nobody else to carry you, especially when you've been in affiliation with a female who has espoused outright hatred for the black community. It is no black person's job, nor responsibility or obligation to ensure that whatever venues he's trying to get himself into are a success. That is not a responsibility. Michi X also made a comparison to Carmelo Anthony to another brother who took out a police officer, right? And he took out this police officer after learning that his son had been fatally shot by a cop. Now, I don't have the details to that, so I can't necessarily speak to what actually happened. See, unlike Michi, I'm not going to come up with a predetermined or a premature conclusion without having all the goddamn facts. But she stated how this guy who took out a police officer has a better shot at not going to prison versus Carmelo Anthony. And listen, man, let me just keep it for what it is. And some of y'all might disagree with me. Some of y'all might even get upset with me. This guy who took out a police officer has no chance in getting out of prison. At a bare minimum, he's doing life in prison. He might be able to claim the temporary insanity situation based off of how soon he responded after he's seen the footage, and that might keep him off death row. But that brother, unfortunately, has no chance in getting out of prison. But she's saying that he has a better shot, or trying to make it seem as if this is who we should be focused on versus Carmelo Anthony. My thing is, if you feel that this brother should be focused on, then I say, okay, we don't take away from one individual to support the other. You try to equally support people in the manner in which you can. Let's support both of these individuals. As far as Carmelo Anthony and his brother, who's now dealing with being in prison for the rest of his life after taking out a police officer. Because see, now they can actually get him with murder. They can try to get the premeditated murder. So they can try to do that. They can easily say, hey, he's seen the footage, he made a plan, and that's what it was. It's going to be easier for them to pin that on him. You cannot get Carmelo Anthony with premeditated murder. Even if he showed up with a knife that he wasn't supposed to have. Because he didn't come there with the intentions on stabbing anyone. But Michi X, once again, is trying to say that this guy has a better shot, and why aren't you backing him, and this, that, and the other. Okay. We don't know how many black people are backing who. Nobody knows. But black people are not condemning that man either. You see, this is right here just goes to show you this divisive type of behavior. Let me cut this AC off. It goes to show you this divisive type of behavior, or maybe she's causing division with what she's saying. Because like I said, for me, if that's how you feel, then okay, simply promote the case. Bring this guy's story to your forefront. You have a large enough fucking platform. Why aren't you promoting that? You act as if black people are supposed to go out here, even when it comes down to Cuba and Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay, when it comes down to Q butter. When it comes down to Q butter in this school, okay, if you feel that you want his endeavors to be promoted, you have a large enough platform. Why don't you actually take the time to actually showcase what he's actually getting done in these schools? You got a big platform. Tell him to send you some video clips. Put it in your shorts. Showcase, okay, this is what we're getting done here. Don't sit up here and tell black people we're supposed to support something and put our money into something and we can't even see where the hell it's fucking going. And then on top of that, you in alignment with somebody like a Cynthia G. But notice how they can quickly, or she can quickly condemn black people by telling us what we should be doing and what we're not doing. But she won't for one fucking second take the time to promote that brother's content on her channel so she can get it out there. Do you leave links in your description box for his channel, to his school, whatever businesses he's building? Do you actually do this? Because if you don't, you ain't got no business fucking talking. You're just as phony as anybody else who gets online. But you got to sit back and think, why would she tell you to put your money behind a losing case? Because the brother who killed the police officer, I'm sorry, he's going down. Because when you think about it, he's not going to be able to justify it. Okay, you've seen the video, you lost your mind. It'd be one thing if he went after the actual police officer that took out his son. No, he went after a random police officer that was directing traffic. How do you explain that? So he might very well get the death penalty. And it's not me saying that I want this to happen. But listen, I don't know how he's going to build the case and say, hey, yeah, this is a matter of I lost. No, he's at a bare minimum, he's never getting out of prison. That's just what it's going to be. But she makes it seem as if this brother was justified for what he did, and Carmelo Anthony was not justified for what he did. Now, mind you, Carmelo Anthony was assaulted twice by two kids, each kid that outweighed him by damn near 75 fucking pounds. Two kids who were trained in mixed martial arts, according to what Charleston White is saying. And the funny thing is, she went in on Charleston White not too long ago for his disrespect to Carmelo Anthony and the family. But now who's the one that looks stupid? Because Charleston White came out and said, "Listen, I owe an apology." Now I don't rock with the guy. I don't like him, but I will say, okay, if you're actually going out and showcasing what actually happened, and say, no, I was wrong, and this is how I was wrong because this is what I know now. Okay, I can say, listen, I can run with that narrative, as long as it's actual, as long as it's factual, I can run with that. But once again, Michi X wants to make it seem as if, well, why are you backing Carmela Anthony and not this brother who took out a police officer? Now, we don't know what his son was doing when the cop shot him. We don't know who he was involved with. For me, I don't have the details, so I can't draw a predetermined conclusion or a premature conclusion. I can't do that. But I mentioned a shout out to the New Black Media a while ago for a reason. Because this is something that Jason Black has mentioned for a while now, and he's brought this up and he's really coined this phrase, you got to watch out for the old niggas. And what is it that Michi X wants you to do? She's pissed off that black people are getting behind our youth and saying, no, we are going to do everything we can to make sure you have a good future. She says, damn that, why the hell are you backing that? You need to go back some old niggas. Like Q Butter and his school, even though he's been in affiliation with some questionable individuals. You need to go back a man who made a decision that he was going to take out the life of an officer who had nothing to do with the killing of his son. That's who you need to fucking back. However, you should not be backing Carmela Anthony. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I'm looking into it the wrong way. But this is how it seems like she's coming across. She's angry at people for backing Carmela Anthony. This is the same woman where on that live stream, the last one that I looked at, many of her followers were leaving in the chat room stating, hey, what the hell happened to you? Since when did you change on your pro-black stance? When she started going in and throwing Carmela Anthony under the goddamn bus. When did you change? What happened? What caused you to change? And what I witnessed in that live stream, and I don't know if it was her most recent live stream, but it was a relatively short live stream. What I witnessed her doing, I think it was about 45 minutes if I'm not mistaken, is she spent time or more time going off on her followers, disrespecting them. One of them that just merely disagreed with her, going ahead, so in order to solve this problem, why don't you have your mama go to the court and suck everybody off? This is what she was saying to a black man. Telling his black mother that he needs to go tell his black mama to go to the court and perform fellatio on the judges and the goddamn prosecutors in order to save. It is some of the most insane, outrageous shit I have ever heard. So because you have a problem with what one brother's questioning your stupid ass on, and rightfully so, because you're speaking and you don't even have all the fucking facts, like you know what the fuck you're talking about. But you don't want black people to invest into the future of this child to ensure that he does not go to jail. But we should go ahead and put our money into some old niggas that made their fucking choice. Carmela Anthony, who did not have a choice in the matter. He didn't initiate confrontation with Austin Metcalf or the Metcalf twins. He responded after being physically attacked. And the fact that you think that the guy who ran over a police officer and killed him with his car somehow stands a better chance in not getting locked up over Carmela Anthony, hey, listen, it's one thing to feel that way. But when you are now trying to make it a matter of why you supporting Carmela Anthony, you should be supporting him. It'd be one thing to say, hey, why don't you support this case here as well? I could get with that. But when you're trying to pin it one against the other, I'm sorry. That lets me know exactly where you stand. Michi X is the very same one that when you start to listen to her videos, I would say take it with a grain of salt. Because a lot of the shit, you got to question if she even knows what the hell she's talking about. She sits up here and talks about AI as if we are going to have some Terminator 2 Judgment Day take place, and that's what we're going to be under. And I'm telling you, that's not what it is. And just listening to what she says lets me know that, yeah, there's some stuff that you say that makes sense, but there's a lot of shit you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm just going to be honest. You don't know what you're talking about. As an example, She talks about, well, if they decide to cut your water off, if they decide to cut your power off, can you go for a week without electricity or for a month or whatever the case may be? All right, let me just say this much when it comes down to that. That'd be easier said than done in more of a rural environment where people have houses. You live in a major metropolitan city, that is not so easy. To just shut somebody's water off, to just shut off the power. I mean, just think about it. For those of you who live in an apartment building, right? You live in an apartment building, the building provides you with, included in your rent is water, in certain cases gas, and you have heat, especially if it's an older building. Most of the buildings over here in New York City are older buildings. All right? Even if you fall behind on your rent or you just simply stop paying rent, let's say it's in the dead of winter, you stop paying rent, you're several months down. Guess what? You're still going to have your running water. You might not have lights if you can't pay your electric, but if it's included in your rent, then you're still going to have your electricity. Landlord has to provide you with that. If the gas is included, then you're still going to have your gas and you're still going to have your heat. If the building, hot water, you're still going to have access to hot water, so you can take hot showers in a place that you're not even paying rent for. So when Michi X says if they decide to shut off your stuff, just think about it. There's a reason why they can't just isolate your unit if you fall behind on your rent. It's the way the system was set up. It's the way the building is constructed. There's no direct line that runs from the boiler room that supplies steam or hot water into your radiators in the wintertime. No, that's branched off through a main riser that ties right into a steam or hot water main in the basement. So in order for them to shut down your apartment, they have to shut down that entire branch, that entire line. So guess what? If you live in an F apartment, every F apartment won't have heat. They can't do that. Likewise, when it comes down to your water, okay? There's not a single, a dedicated line that runs from the basement all the way up into your apartment that supplies you with water. No, that is tied into a main riser. That is tied into the main at the base of the building. So they can't just up and do that. So guess what? You don't pay your rent, you still got running water. You still have hot water. They can't just isolate the hot water, because if they cut the hot water off, they shut down the hot water to the entire building. They can't do that. See, if Michi X knew what she was talking about, she would understand this, especially in major metropolitan cities. A lot of stuff is tied into a central system. So even when it comes down to electricity, let's just briefly talk about this for a second. A lot of the electricity where you see apartment buildings comes from underground. Have you ever seen when people or Con Edison goes inside of a manhole and goes inside of those manholes to go deal with whatever electrical issues they have to deal with? Look at the process. You can't just open a goddamn manhole and jump inside there and figure out what the hell's going on. You would die immediately. Not because of a fall, not because you would hit your head on something, but because of some alligator waiting to devour your ass. You would suffocate. The gases alone down there would kill you. There's an entire process to how they have to actually do this. So when they first open a manhole, they're probably going to open up another manhole somewhere within the vicinity just to vent it properly. Then they're going to stick a long yellow hose inside of there that pumps air inside of there, so that way you have fresh breathing air. Because if not, you'll be breathing in those goddamn toxic gases. They're going to let this damn thing vent out for a while, and then they're going to have teams of guys working. Probably at least two, one on the outside and one on the inside. So in case something happens to the guy who's down under, somebody could pull his ass out. The next question that I would ask you is, how often, for those of you who live in major metropolitan cities, do you see people going inside of those manholes to go deal with whether it be electrical, whether it be plumbing, sewer, water supply, gas, whatever? When was the last time you seen people going in there? You ever see a situation in New York City where you have back in 2007, where the floor exploded in Manhattan, somewhere down in Manhattan, and a steam main burst? It was outdated. It was worn out. And what happened as the steam pressure built up, the shit exploded. How old was that infrastructure? A lot of this stuff is extremely old. It hasn't been touched in years. Why? Because people don't go down there unless they have to. I've been a superintendent for over 13 years and ran four apartment buildings in my career as a superintendent. And the one thing I noticed about these older buildings is when you go ahead and you take a look at the water main, just take a look at the water main, right? When she's saying, well, what are you going to do if they cut your water off? Take a look at that water main in the basement. You got a big building, you're probably going to have a 4 to 6 inch water main coming into your building from the ground, from the street. You're probably going to see 2 old rusty gate valves sitting inside that room. And if you go to tamper with those valves, you better know what the hell you're doing. If you go to close that water, I suggest that you install a ball valve right after those gate valves. So the minute you cut that water back on, those valves get frozen or something goes wrong, you can still control the goddamn water. Because prior to those valves coming from the street, there's really nothing to shut that water off unless you shut down that entire neighborhood, that entire block or several blocks or whatever it might be. Because once again, the infrastructure is old. And anytime you understand anything when it comes down to shutting down water and turning the water back on, you cannot just open the valve right away and let the water come rushing in. You got to open it slowly. Because why? You burst the damn pipe. You'll damage toilet flushometers and diaphragms. You'll cause all kinds of chaos if you just open it abruptly. Water hammer, pipes bursting, toilet flushometers overflowing water. It creates all kinds of problems. But when you're dealing with old infrastructure, this is what you're up against. See, the way Michi tries to make it seem as if you got some guys sitting in a power plant somewhere or in some office building and that they say, we want to shut down, okay, let's see, on 63rd Street on Melrose Avenue, we want to shut down those 2 buildings with electricity. Just turn it off, go onto the computer and just kill the power. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. The last blackout that New York City had was back in 2003. That was over 2 decades ago. And they had the power restored I think it was restored that same night or immediately the next day. So when Michi's running around saying, well, if they cut your power off, what they going to do? Okay, do you think they're going to intentionally cut the power off? Because in order for them to cut the power off, it'll cause so much chaos. Not only for the people that they directly were looking to impact, but for them themselves. Because if you cut the power off to me, you're cutting the power off to yourself. Because all of this shit is tied into the same main. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the electricity for the Northeast comes from Canada or somewhere by Niagara Falls. In one of those areas. That's a huge operation. That's massive amounts of electricity. So you got these substations with these big ass transformers that are dealing with massive amounts of electricity that have to either increase or reduce the amount of electricity to supply all of these goddamn buildings. And you decide you want to cut one building off. What happens? You start having energy surges, electrical surges, all of these problems that these transformers and equipment can't deal with right away. That's going to lead to what? Shortages, arcs, all kinds of problems. So when Michi X is sitting up here, man, well, if they cut your power off, you don't know what you're talking about. There's a reason. If they were going to do it, they would have already done it. The infrastructure is too old. It's too outdated. It's too problematic to shut it down and then try to get it back online again. Most people just don't want to go through all that shit. There's a reason why you don't find Con Edison underneath the streets every 2 seconds in New York City. They go there as they need to. It's a process to shut off somebody's power. It's a process. You can't just go ahead and click a damn switch and up there, you're done. Oh, when we want to put it back on, we just flick the switch back on and it comes back on. It's not that simple. But every story that you listen to with Michi X is another doom and gloom story. And here you have a woman that wants you to get out here and support some old niggas and says to hell with the young generation that we should be supporting. Because this is the very same problem that the black community actually has faced for a long time. There's been no real investment into the goddamn youth. But anyhow, let me get back to what I was saying a second ago. The next thing she talks about is, well, how many of you know how to grow food? Listen, I don't have a problem with the idea of growing your own food. I support that. However, once again, if you live in a metropolitan city, you live in a building, what space do you have to plant a garden? You work a 9 to 5 and you're working to make ends meet to keep your bills paid. What time do you have to go work a 9 to 5? If you got a family, take care of your family, then tend to that garden. What time do you have for that? And then the next question is this: how long does it take to grow that food? Okay? Can you grow that food faster than you can consume it? What portions of food, what percentage of food do you eat a day? And how quickly can that garden replenish what you actually eat? And that will actually let you know when this is actually feasible. Because a garden, in order to have a garden that's sustaining and continuously to be sustaining, you have to have something that is relatively large. Where the hell are you going to put it? That's the key question. Michi also talks about, well, do you have generators? Okay, I don't disagree with somebody if you own a private home owning a generator. That's a wise idea. But once again, if you live in a damn apartment building, where the hell are you going to put a fucking generator? Furthermore, where are you going to supply power to it from? Most generators run off of diesel or natural gas. Some might even run off of propane gas. Where are you going to get the power supply from? You have got diesel hooked up or sitting in your living room for your diesel generator, right? Because you're going to vent it right outside, out your damn window beside your AC, right? I mean, come on. Once again, this is stuff that's not properly thought up. The bottom line is this: the stuff that they're trying to tell you, and it's just the doom and gloom that she's trying to present. Once again, let's just say you have a generator that runs off of natural gas. If you're concerned that they might cut your power off, cut your gas off, well, what's to say that they couldn't cut off that gas supply to that generator if that's what they wanted to do? See, the stuff that she's talking about, this requires real mechanics, a real level of thinking, sophistication, and the competence to know what the hell you're fucking doing. Because if you fuck around with these goddamn things and you don't know what you're doing, you literally could take down your entire home by burning it to the damn ground. So when she's sitting up here telling you all of this stuff, yeah, once again, it's good ideas, but it might not necessarily be applicable to every single person. Not everybody could go out here and buy a goddamn house. And then furthermore, how much does a house cost to buy? And after spending damn near $1 million to buy a goddamn house, okay, I'm going to go ahead and spend even more money to buy generators and buy acres of land so I can grow crops. And all. I mean, listen, once again, these are not bad ideas, but it's not necessarily a practical idea in every single scenario. You are dealing with somebody who is sitting up here trying to tell you that you need to live a certain lifestyle, but there's fundamental things that she simply does not understand. And just listening to her talk, and in the fields that I've worked in, it just lets me know you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Years ago, she made a video talking about AI, and if your car breaks down or your truck breaks down, you need a tire replaced, they don't need to send a mechanic out there. They can send out some AI bot to come fix or replace a tire or fix a part in your car. And I just stood there and scratched my head. As a matter of fact, I did respond to it some years ago. And I said, okay, working in the mechanical field, mechanics is not something that you learn via reading a goddamn book. Mechanics is something that's an artwork. It's a profession. It is something that it requires you to do unorthodox things in order to get the result and outcome that you actually need. That if you come there with just one set of tools specifically for that particular job, chances are you're going to have to go and get more tools to complete that job. Smart mechanics tell you if you go to somebody's home and you're assessing something, don't touch anything when it comes down to plumbing or none of that, because if you touch it and something goes wrong, you committed yourself to it. There's a lot that's involved with mechanics. I've worked with some of the best mechanics, with some of the best boiler technicians, and these are skilled people that took them years to perfect their craft. Something that an AI bot is not going to be able to look up on ChatGPT and figure out how to goddamn do. So when Michi is trying to tell you that, oh, there's going to be these robots that are going to do everything and you're not going to have a job because the AI is going to take over everything. Okay, AI will take over low-skilled, low-end jobs. It's not taking over mechanics. And just working in the field and looking at the complexities of it, doing some of the complex that I've done, or work that I've done myself, it just lets me know that no, it takes real skill and somebody that knows what the hell they're doing to get in here and start dealing with this stuff, because something always unexpectedly goes wrong. But once again, this is Michi X for you, telling you things about a cybernetic organism future to where, what, you gonna fight a robot when they got the robots patrolling your community? You gonna fight a robot? And okay, I'm not gonna get too deep into that. Maybe I'll make another production on that down the line. But I'll say this much here: machinery doesn't do anything that it's not programmed to do and designed to do. And who sets the design of what its purpose is? That's people. People. It is that simple. There's no machine that is indestructible. You go into a basement of one of these big buildings and you see this big monstrous boiler plant, these huge oil or gas fired boilers, and when they turn on, they roar just like they were dragons. Take a machine room and you go and see these big, huge generators that supply all kinds of power to the building. When you look at these machines, they are monstrous. If you know nothing about machinery or mechanical work, you most likely will be intimidated when you walk inside of these rooms and look at these big monsters just roaring up a storm. However, these things are not indestructible. They can be shut down, they can be dismantled, and they can be taken apart, removed. And this has happened. Because the moment a landlord says, okay, take that big ass boiler out of my basement and replace it with something else and put a bunch of small, tiny little boilers in it, guess what? That big monster that you see roaring up a storm that has all these massive pipes hooked up to it, that gets dismantled. Because what happens? The welders come in there, the electricians come in there, they shut the power down, they gut all the power supply to it, and they start welding, cutting it, and getting it out the hell out of there. And before you know it, it is scraps in a fucking scrapyard. What I'm saying is machinery is not indestructible. Even if you look at machinery like a car, a bus, a truck, a train, and you look at these things, let's just take a truck or a car, for example. You look at these machines or a truck, let's just take a truck. And you think that if that truck can do some serious damage. But it does have vulnerabilities. Why? Because if you just simply puncture the radiator and cause the coolant to leak out, that truck is a sitting duck. Can't do anything. If you flatten its tires, you reduce its mobility substantially. I'm simply referencing this to tell you that, these things are not indestructible. So Michi tries to make it seem as if these robots are indestructible, and here's the most I'll say about this. I've sat back and I've looked at several videos. I know there's a company called Boston Dynamics that makes robots, right? The common denominator of what I've always seen after looking at these videos, and these are recent videos, the video quality is poor and the frame rates are extremely low. And I'm sitting back and I'm questioning, why is it that in 2025, I'm looking at videos that have extremely low frame rates and poor quality? Why is that? I mean, I've seen videos of these robots jumping and flipping and doing acrobatics and martial arts, and people are like, oh man, this thing is going to come over and we're going to be doomed. And I tell people, you might want to think a little bit longer on that one. Because the thing that you need to consider is these things are in controlled environments. All right? Controlled environments that you and I cannot gain access to. That they wouldn't even let us around the facility. And it's easy to showcase and demonstrate what you want from a controlled environment where only one or two people are there watching what's going on. Because most of these videos are highly edited and staged in a way to make it look like what they want you to see. And the reason why they show these videos is it's actually pretty similar, because what did I mention earlier when it came down to the Carmelo Anthony video footage that they decided to release? Unlegible footage. Why is that? We got Ultra HD 4K camcorder and beyond, right through a cell phone. Why are we showcasing the poorest quality video footage that we can think of? There's only one reason in my mind why somebody would do that. So they can mask all the imperfections to that poor video quality and say, hey, it's just the poor video quality. And most people won't even question that. You got to be able to look beyond what they show you. See, anybody can show you a video of a robot doing backflips and kicks and tricks and running up and down on walls and all sorts of bullshit. It's a different story to actually bring that robot into an environment that is non-controlled, to where the public can easily see what's going on and verify and identify what is actually happening. You see, this is what they'll never actually do. Because why? The moment they do this, the hoax is up. Now we see what you can't do. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that some of these robots don't exist. What I'm saying is the bullshit you see them doing on your cell phone screen, a laptop, a TV screen, a mobile device, that's not accurate. And a lot of y'all will sit back and fall for this and say, see, they can do this. Look at the video. Okay, it's called CGI. They've been doing it for over 30 fucking years. And if they were able to game you with something so basic, something so trivial, something so minute, that I don't really know what else I can say at this point in time. If this is all it takes for you to believe what they're showcasing to you, that they haven't actually physically told you, then it's no wonder they've been able to run this whole myth of God on people. And people fell for this shit. They can sell you any goddamn thing, and y'all will believe this. Now, my objective here is to get y'all to think beyond what you're seeing. Question every fucking thing that you hear. And just when you think about a cybernetic organism, okay? A robot. Because one day we're going to be oppressed by these machines, and the machines are going to take over humanity, and we're going to be enslaved to them. If you believe that, once again, I got a bridge in Brooklyn. I'll sell you for a real good price. Because if you want to start knowing what they're capable of doing, look at Elon Musk with his failed electric vehicles. His autonomous vehicles that drive themselves, and yeah, we're going to launch this out. I looked at a video earlier today, right? And the video was stating that they did this, they started rolling this out, I believe it was either this month or the month prior, in Austin, Texas. These electric vehicles that drive themselves, the people who are recording them were showcasing how they were put in numerous dangerous situations. The vehicles were going into opposing traffic. One situation, the vehicle stopped in the middle of an intersection and told the passengers to exit the vehicle, and it couldn't restart itself. I mean, this is stuff that you're dealing with. This is an example of what they are capable of doing. Okay, all this stuff that they tell you is going to be perfect, and this is what's happening, and you see that it's a complete failure. Just like back in the winter of 2023, when they had that situation in Chicago, and I believe even in Canada, to where all of these people with these electric vehicles, the vehicles would not accept the charge. They had no way to charge the battery because it was so cold. I mean, this is what you're dealing with. This tells you where they're at, what they're capable of doing, and if they have the means to be able to pull off what they're telling you that they can do. If the stuff that you can pull off is so good, then we should be able to see this playing out for itself. And every time we look at this play out for itself, we see what a disaster it really is. They told you that electric vehicles have more driving range than gasoline-powered cars. Now we know that's a bold-faced lie. See, I always knew it was. But now y'all can see this in real time for yourself. They told you all of these great things about electrical cars and how they're going to replace everything, and they have these super fast charging rates. And guess what? You're seeing the disaster of what they are. This is just what it is. But yet and still, you got somebody like Michi sitting around here talking about, oh, AI and the robots are going to be doing this and that. Okay, just think about a robot for a second. The fact that the electric cars can't do what they say they're going to do, a robot going into your community, is it going to be one robot? Is it going to be multiple robots? Who's building the robots? Because they most certainly aren't building themselves. And now you're talking about robots that are engaging in physical combat. Physical combat it's going to drain your battery. Because the question is, how are these robots going to be powered through a battery? And if you got robots that are, cybernetic organisms, this is not some Terminator 2 movie or Terminator Rise of the Machine. That's not what this is. You're not Arnold Schwarzenegger where you got a battery cell that lasts 250 years. That's not what you're dealing with. And if you got machinery that's engaged in physical combat that resembles a human, just think about when you look at the complexities of movements of human beings. It might be taken for granted by us because we do it on a daily basis, but these are complex movements. For a machine to be able to mimic these movements, that's not very simple. See, a car, a truck, a bus, a train, a plane, a boat, their movements, although can be high impact, fast and rapid movements, but the movements are relatively basic. Go a train, back and forth. That's what a train does, okay? High horsepower, lots of torque, but a train goes back and forth. A car mainly goes forward, right, left, U-turn, back up occasionally. Basic movements. The movements of a human being are well more sophisticated and far more complex than just back and forth or up and down or left or right. It's just well beyond. And you see this when it comes down to people who are sports competitors, those who work out, people who engage in competition, basketball, football, when you're shaking and breaking somebody and dodging people on the court. Those are complex movements. And when you talk about having a cybernetic organism that weighs multiple 100 pounds, attempting to do all that, how long is that battery lasting is what I'm trying to figure out. And if you don't believe me, okay, when was the last time you got into a damn fight? 3 seconds is all it takes for a fight to happen. What was your condition before you got into that fight, as far as your energy levels and your breath levels and heart rate compared to what it was afterward? I'll give you one example and then I'm going to move on to the next subject. How many of y'all remember Brock Lesnar when he fought Cain Velasquez in the UFC? And he lost. He lost bad. He got the brakes beat off of him. And my opinion to why he lost is because I think he ran his tank dry. See, Brock Lesnar back in those days was accustomed to bulldozing a fight. Let me just run in there with all the power and strength I got and just take this guy down to the ground and just ram him in until he can't get back up, until he's done. He tried it with Cain Velasquez. He can never get a hold of him. He can never get him to stay down. And at some point, he kept going and didn't have enough wit to say, let me just stop. Let me slow down. Let me slow down the pace for a second so that way I don't exhaust myself. What Brock Lesnar did, according to what I've seen, was he exhausted himself. And when he exhausted himself, it was over. No matter how tough he was, no matter how bad he was, no matter how many asses he done kicked in his career before, when you're exhausted and you have nothing in that tank, you're a sitting duck. All you can do is cover up and hope that the referee ends the fight so you don't get the shit kicked out of you even more. Now, had Brock Lesnar actually stopped and slowed the pace down, I think he would have won that fight. Nonetheless, that's just an example. And now the last thing that I do, I don't know if it's the last thing that I want to talk about, but let me say this. And I might continue in another production later on about the whole AI technology. I might do that, I'm not sure. But I mentioned how you have people like the Black Conservative Perspective. You have people like the Conservative Twins, formerly known as the Hodge Twins. Officer Andrew Tatum, or whatever the hell his Brandon Tatum, whatever the fuck his name is. A bunch of fucking, just a bunch of Republican shills and bootlicks. I remember listening, it was a couple of days ago, the brother Sergeant Willie Pete stated that, what did he state? He stated how white supremacy is willing to put money behind their cause, and white people are willing to back their mouthpieces. And the problem with black people is that we don't donate enough to one another, to our own damn causes. Now, a lot of people believe that these content creators that are online having these lavish lifestyles, that now have these upgraded studios and upgraded backgrounds and whatnot, that all of this money is coming from random white guys that are just donating all the time. And I'm not saying that you don't have white people that would donate to these individuals and even other white folks. What I'm saying is, if you think that these people are subsidizing the lifestyle of these individuals, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. Let's just take it back to the late Kevin Samuels. And I told y'all on how he made a lot of his money. Now, in certain cases, I would see large donations being sent to him or whatever the case may be. I can't really critique what I was looking at that time, so I'm not going to give an opinion on it. But what I do remember is when this man would make videos, he would always have some cologne in the background or some wine or whatever he was sipping. And that's where the money comes from. That's where a lot of the money comes from. How many of y'all remember, was it Ashton Hall, the muscular black guy that made the video about his morning workout? I think he made a few-minute video or short of him getting up at 5 in the morning, doing push-ups, dunking his face in water, and many people were saying that these were cringeworthy videos. Now, there was a common denominator that I would see in these videos. And the common denominator was the Saratoga water. Even to where he's doing push-ups, he puts the water down in front of him so the camcorder can see it, and then starts doing his push-ups. Takes the water out of the, or opens up the bottle, pours the water into the bowl he's going to dunk his face in, and plants the bottle right on the table so the camera can see it. This is how a lot of these people end up making their money. They're promoting brands. Just think about it. Even when it comes down to a lot of these Negroes who get online, the black conservative bootlick, the Hodge twins, what do they always talk about? They became the conservative twins. Oh, pick you up a patriotic flag, or patriotic this, and patriot that, and okay. Now you know where their money comes from. The items that they're telling you to go ahead and get, or something that you can win. Do you think they actually bought this item and now they're putting it up in a sweepstakes so you can win it? No. They're promoting the brands of other companies. These individuals literally become walking, talking billboards for other companies. Then you start to understand how they get out here and they start kissing the asses that they kiss, literally. Saying some of the dumbest shit, most asinine bullshit we have ever heard in our entire lives. If you think it's a bunch of white men and women sitting around just constantly donating every time these guys make a video and that's how they're making their money, no, that's not it. Even to when you listen to the black conservative perspective. Well, we're going to continue with the video, but first, a word from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Have you been this and have you been that? This is where you need somebody that knows, somebody that understands. Give Morgan & Morgan a call. Okay, now it makes sense to me. You have to go out here and literally become a walking billboard for these companies. This is how you make your money. Because the question that you have to ask is, once you understand some simple concept in life, in order for things to thrive, you then have to question, how is it that a man sitting online in front of a camera giving his opinion that doesn't change anybody's lives, doesn't do anything for anybody, how is he sitting around in front of a camera making millions of goddamn dollars? How does that happen? How is he making more than the person that goes out here and does essential work that helps contributing to society physically moving? You see, because the thing is, the essential workers, and I'm talking about your mechanics, I'm talking about your plumbers, your electricians, I'm talking about your bus operators, your train operators, your people who are in these fields that you literally need. How is it that a guy who gets online and simply espouses his opinion can somehow make more money than people who actually go out here and do essential work every single day? They are being subsidized, and not mainly by their audience, because the average person, even the average white guy, does not have money to continuously keep giving over and over again just because you give your opinion. A lot of people in this country are struggling, white men included. And from what I've seen when it comes down to donations, even when I first put up my donation links years ago, when you initially put it up, yeah, you're going to get a surge of support of people who are going to support your content. But that's probably going to be a one-time surge. I don't think they're going to be continuous donors over and over again. And then when I look at some of these other content creators and I see some of the donations when they have the super chats or whatever, the donations are very small. $2, $3, $5, $1. You'll be lucky if you see something that goes up to $10. Because why? Most people don't have it. So the thing is, in many cases, we sit back and say, well, see, that's the problem with us as black people. We don't go out here and support one another. And that's not what that is. A lot of black people support when they can and give what they have. If you simply don't have it, then you just simply don't have it. You got to make sure you're taken care of before anything else. But when you see these other content creators, whether it be white or whether it be black bootlegs who are espousing their talking points, and you look at how many times they are advocating or advertising somebody else's brand on their platform. And even if they're not directly or verbally saying it, you can literally physically see the promotion of it through an item that's sitting around. I remember Kevin Samuels made a video talking about the 5 shoes that each man must have, the 5 different suits. What is he advertising? Yeah, these companies figured, okay, you're influential, so therefore we will back you so long as you are willing to push our agenda. What is the agenda? Just promote our brand. It might be a simple agenda, but still promote our brand. So what happens? These individuals get out here, they'll start promoting the brand, or they'll have a live stream, have a glass of wine, or the bottle's just sitting there in the background, or a box of cigars, or whatever the case may be, with the name showing. Another one that y'all should think about. These gold digger pranks, right? The gold digger pranks, these individuals come out and say, oh, well, they capture females gold digging. And listen, all of them are friends. They know each other. They're cool with each other. They all know each other. So if you're looking at that and thinking that it's real, it's a bald-faced fucking lie. It just is. But the funny thing is, you just look at how some of this stuff goes down, right? You'll have a guy, and in certain cases, these dudes are well-dressed, expensive chains on, showcasing everything that says, hey, I got some money on me. Okay. You would figure if the woman is out here looking for gold, that she would give this guy the time of day. But they walk away. They give him a snobby attitude. Now, you ain't my type. You this, that, you broke, and so forth. And so, okay, the man's got how many gold or platinum chains around his goddamn neck? And you're saying that he's broke. Okay. Now, mind you, all of this, they're standing in front of an automobile. Or she'll walk past that very same automobile before he approaches her. They have their conversation. She rejects him. He says, all right, you have a nice day. He walks over to the car, the very same car that she either walked past or that they were both standing in front of. He sits in the car, closes the door. In certain cases, doesn't even start the engine, and she's turning around and running back to the automobile. Now, mind you, the very same automobile that they were both either standing in front of or that she walked right past and never even took a glimpse at. Never looked at it one time, never said, dude, whose car is this? This is a nice car. Nothing. It was almost as if the car didn't even exist. Now, all of a sudden, that he sat in the car, the very same man that she rejected, she is now running back over, breaking her legs to get access to that man. Oh, well, I was wrong about you. Do y'all literally believe this? That this is actually true? That this is an authentic situation? No. But furthermore, it's not even about the gold diggers and catching them and whatnot. That's not even what I'm trying to, the point that I'm emphasizing on here. In many cases, after the conversation takes place, he'll tell her, okay, get in the car. Go sit in the passenger seat. And then the camera showcases what's going on the inside. And what I've noticed is that, you can see the emblem of that car on the seats. Most cars do not have the emblem on the seat. I don't know why anyone would need to have the emblem. I mean, it's already on the outside of the car. When you're driving it, people can see what model and make it is. Why would you need to have it on the seat? Okay, let's continue. So she'll ask him, okay, so what do you do for a living? And these guys will sit up here, whether it be Nair or London or whoever these guys' names are. I've seen a couple of their videos a while back, and I already know that the hoax is up. But they'll say, yeah, I invest in some cryptocurrencies, I own a couple of businesses, I own some car dealerships. And when I hear that, I just say, all right. Then you go ahead and you scroll through their channel, and you don't see nothing about a car dealership. Every video that they have is some gold digger prank. How to catch a gold digger. Prior to them becoming famous with the gold digger videos, they find themselves making goofy, silly video skits. Silly shit. Now, the thing is, if you actually own a car dealership, that takes a level of intelligence. You have to know the business and how to keep that business thriving, especially as a black man. How many black men do y'all know that actually own car dealerships? Y'all probably can't think of one. But yet, some dudes in their early 20s own car. They somehow figured out the math on how they can break through the glass ceiling and cut through all the red tape, and now they are living successfully because they figured out how to start car dealerships and get this business up and thriving. No, and I'm here to tell you, no, that is not the case. Because typically when somebody has that level of intelligence and you're on social media, even if you're making prank skits, you want to demonstrate that you have a real level of intelligence about you. The information that I've known about heating systems, y'all heard me talk extensively about this over the years. And anybody who actually knows how to start a business, they usually will tell you, okay, come to my website and I'll show you how you can get started. You don't see these guys doing none of the above. Everything that they produce is a gold digger prank. And once again, these are videos with girls that they already know. It's already scripted. So if you're falling for this bullshit, believing, oh, well, oh man, look at these gold diggers. No, this is all scripted. They're cool with each other. So don't let none of this fool you. But the key thing is when you think about, you own all these car dealerships. No, you don't own a dealership. How are you making your money? How are you able to afford this car? Well, it would not surprise me if the car itself doesn't even belong to them. You have to be a walking billboard for this car and this car manufacturing company, whether it be Lamborghini, whether it be Porsche, whether it be Rolls Royce, whether it be Bentley or Mercedes or whatever company that they're promoting. This is why from the moment they get in the damn car, each car you can see the emblem of the goddamn vehicle sitting on the back seats. And in many cases, even the passenger seat. Why do you need the emblem showcasing on the seat? Listen, I've had several cars in my lifetime. None of them, well, they're all relatively nice cars, but none of them that have had the emblem on the seat. Why is it even necessary unless you are a walking billboard? This is how you're making your money. So the gold digger pranks, listen, at the end of the damn day, it's actually a brilliant strategy because there's a lot of men that want to see women get put in their place. So it's going to generate a lot of views. It's going to garner a lot of attraction. And what happens behind that is you're going to have these companies looking to sponsor you. Hey, man, listen, we like what you're doing. And hey, we'll let you have one of our cars for your video, for your gold digger prank. But the car has to be featured. And that's exactly what happens. So when you see these people living lavish lifestyles, living comfortably like there's some important businessmen that figured out how to cut through all the goddamn red tape, but they outthought everybody else, they have not. They have not. And in many cases, yeah, you got to go out here and push what agenda that we are telling you to push if you want to continue to live up this lifestyle. Now, as far as the black bootlegs are concerned, the Hodge twins, the conservative twin, whatever you want to call them, the black conservative perspective. Let me say this much right now. When it comes down to all, this is the Brandon Tatum. Let me just go ahead and tell you something when it comes down to these individuals. Where Brandon Tatum I have clicked multiple times, not interested. I don't want to see this man's content. I don't want it coming up on my timeline. I don't want to see it on my feed. However, YouTube still, after multiple times of me mentioning not interested, will still recommend his stuff to me anyway. So it's they boost them in the algorithms, whether you want to see it or not. They prompt them up there, and what they do is they put these clickbait titles in there. And when you click onto it, you realize, oh, okay, now I see what time it is. And then you start to understand how they get big the way they do. They talk the talking points of what the dominant society wants. And I'm talking about the black bootlegs here. They kiss enough ass and lick enough goddamn boots, and this is how they make their way to the goddamn top. This is not a bunch of white men who sit around here donating to them. They're getting money from corporations, from companies. Companies in many cases that receive government funds through your taxpayer dollars. Money that you yourself can't access, but you're paying for in order to keep these people afloat. And they have no problem getting out here and putting straight up ass kissers in front of a camera to go push their fucking propaganda and their agenda. But now when it comes down to you black bootlegs, let me tell you something right now. And I'm going to tell all of you white conservatives and white Republicans something as well. For those of you who want to make an appeal to black people, this ain't it. You getting these bootlegs to get out here and espouse your talking points, this ain't it. I have been hip to these dudes for a long time. And this is also another reason why I'm going to give the new black media credit, because they are actually teaching black people how to spot this. Now, I do what I can on my end, but I don't produce content the way I do, but the way I used to. But Jason Black has been doing some brilliant work lately, really just breaking shit down. And as people start to think more and more, your strategy is the same. You don't change it up. It is tiring, it is redundant, it is played out. So when you send these bootlegs out here, I can tell just a mile away just by the way they start talking. I can look at their background. If I see the American flag in their background, I know what time it is with them. And it's not me down in the American flag, but no, they all have a consistent pattern. They all pivot in the same direction. This is too obvious. This is too abundantly clear. And at this point in time, you continue down this path, guess what? These bootlegs aren't going to be doing you no justice. More and more black people are catching on to them. And as you got voices that are getting out here, giving you a breakdown on what to expect, then guess what? Whatever little influence they had, they're going to be speaking in an echo chamber amongst you and themselves. But they will have essentially no reach. I unsubscribed from the Hodge twins a while ago. I don't care to listen to them. Click not interested on the timeline, but yet their content still keeps coming up. Because what YouTube essentially does is they will try to stuff these perspectives down your throat. Okay, you click not interested, we'll just circle back around again a week or two later, a month later, put it back there again. Hopefully a different title. Hopefully you click onto it. That's all we need. You ain't got to subscribe. But if you sit down and watch it, that's all we care about. This is how they get down. So when Sergeant Willie P wants to say that, well, black people don't support enough. Well, we don't have any Fortune 500 enterprises that can go out here and do what the dominant society does. It is not white people, by and large, that are going out here giving these donations. Because I've had a few white people donate to me, but it's not that often. Like I told you, that's the way it's typically going to work. If it's not something where you are requiring them to have a subscription, the donations are going to probably be a one, twice, or whenever they can, but they're not that often. So if we're believing that, well, white people are going to get behind, a Tim Pool, a Matt Walsh, and you see that the Daily Wire is falling apart now. From what I understand, Ben Shapiro is contemplating on selling the goddamn thing. Because it ain't doing well. Why? Because white people aren't going to donate to something just to listen to what somebody espouse their opinions. And when it comes down to these corporations, yeah, they will put money in your pocket. And this is where it becomes an issue for the black bootlegs. that want to get out here and espouse the dominant society talking point. They will put money in your pockets. And they will do it so long as you have influence on black people. But as your influence slowly and more so becomes more and more waning on the black community, at some point they're going to realize there is no return on this investment. We're not getting our money's worth. Therefore, we have no reason to keep funding the black conservative perspectives, the Hodge twins, the Brandon Tatums, and a host of other bootlegs who get out here and kiss ass every chance they get. They're not going to do it. So I want people to thoroughly keep this and what I've just broke down to you and take that into consideration. Because this is how they're making money, Kevin Samuels included. May he rest in peace. But I knew from the moment he talked about, well, why should we as older black men do anything for the younger generation of black people? I said, okay. That amazes me that you feel that way as a black man. But then when it came down to who you was trying to help, you're trying to help everybody. I knew what time it was with him a long time ago. That's another reason why I never rock with the dude. Like I told you, I can spot these individuals a mile away. A lot of y'all were disappointed. Well, how could you say this? No, listen, man. I've seen this game play enough times. I've been around the block enough times to know what this shit looks like. So I can spot bullshit a mile away. I ain't got to go through too much before I know what I'm going to find out. It's going to come into fruition. And that's what it is when it comes down to a host of other people who get online. Because once again, you have to ask the question. What is the necessity to your opinion, to you giving your opinion from the comfy, cozy confines of your home or some hotel room or some studio that you might go to every now and again? There is none, unless you can influence the masses. Then you become useful, and unless you are willing to be a willful tool for the mainstream agenda, then they'll pay you handsomely. Because why? We can control the narrative. But now you see that the mainstream media has lost or is slowly losing. I can't even say slowly. They might have completely lost control of the narrative. So they're going to be trying to influence or co-opt many different outlets to where they can find somebody who's influential. This is why they were contacting Kai Cenat, as he mentioned, back during the 2024 election. This is why they were doing what they were doing, because they know they have no influence. They have lied too much. But see, the thing is, now it's to a point where they're old, they're geriatric, they're redundant, they don't change up the strategy, and people can spot them a mile away. So it doesn't matter whose ass you try to place your hand up to control them like a ventriloquist puppet, you still are going to be spotted a mile away. And the more people start to think and see the inconsistencies and see that you got things so egregiously wrong, especially within that 2024 election, at this point in time, there's really no excuse. They're on to the games. We know what you're up to. We know the tactic that you're going to use. And you got more and more people breaking down their strategies in what they do. And I say, hey, this is brilliant. So once again, I got to give a shout out to New Black Media. I got to give a shout out to the brothers who get out here and break things down to a nutshell. Shout out to Sergeant Willie P. Shout out to brothers who are getting out here espousing what is needed to be said. Teaching many of you how to goddamn think. Because when you think about it, the whole white supremacist strategy, it really was never a good strategy. Just somewhere along the lines, people as a collective decided to be lulled to sleep. And that's how it became so successful. But what I do know is, listen, nothing lasts forever. All right? And at some point, it's a matter of whether you are going to see that and break that influence. What I say is strategy number one, you want to end white supremacy? Break its influence. That means you question every single thing that you hear out of the mainstream media. Everything. You don't just blindly run with something that they tell you just because they tell you to do so. There's a reason why they attempted to use celebrities and all these other people that they've been throwing out here to try to get black people to go out here and vote for their agenda. It's the same tactic. They use it over and over and over again and again. And in my honest opinion, I don't think they have any other ideas. So they're going to just keep running with this until they run it into the ground, until they eventually crash and burn. And that's just going to be that. But I don't think they have any other creativity. They don't know what to fucking do. This is why the Democratic Party is in shams the way it is right now. But that could be classified as a whole other subject matter. Like I stated, at the end of the damn day, this is a matter of getting people to think, which is something that they don't want you to do. Because if you think, guess what? They can't control you. There's not enough of them to control you, to physically control you. So they need influence to be able to get you on board with their agenda. And this is also something else that I wanted to mention before I go about this whole situation with Iran and Trump striking the 3 nuclear facilities. You know, y'all can take this however y'all want to take it, but I just want to put some stuff out there, right? Donald Trump, a couple of weeks ago, mentioned how he successfully bombed 3 nuclear facilities, sent fighter jets in there, destroyed them, and they were safely making their way back home, safe and undetected. This is what he stated. I'm just going to say this. I'm not buying that. Now, we know that Donald Trump loves to posture and boast about how everything is so tremendous and the greatest it ever was. And so we listen, man. If you're doing a good job putting the country where it needs to be, if that's the only thing I got to deal with is him posturing, whatever, I could care less. I'll take that. But if that's not the case, then it's like, all right. Now, we're more than 6 months into his election. You can determine on how you feel about Donald Trump or not. This is not a matter of what your feelings are, what my feelings are toward the current president of the United States. But when I'm sitting back and I'm listening to Donald Trump state that, yeah, we went in there and we successfully bombed 3 nuclear facilities. My first question is, how long did it take you to do all of this? Because from what he stated, that he bombed 3 nuclear facilities, managed to get the planes out safe and sound, and had the prime minister, I guess, of Iran ready to have a ceasefire deal, some kind of a peace agreement. And all of this under 48 hours. Now, I'm just going to say this much right now. I'm not buying that. That doesn't make any sense to me. First of all, how long would it take for you to get those jets in there to go ahead and attack those facilities? The next thing is, how did you locate them? I'm pretty sure you just go to Google Maps and they told you, okay, make a left over here, make a right down there, go 3 blocks down and make another right, and there you are. No, that's not how that happened. You're talking about a country that develops nuclear weapons, and I'm pretty sure any country that has that capability has advanced security measures to keep that country safe. To make sure that another country, an opposing country, cannot just go in there and take out what they built. Just like when it comes down to here in the United States and why I question what took place with 9/11. Because I'm not even going to get into that. But the bottom line is, when you're talking about a country that has nuclear weapons, I'm pretty sure they don't have some third world sky surveillance system. You can't just enter their airspaces and think that nothing's going to happen and they not detect that you're there. So when you hear Donald Trump saying all this, then a few days later after that, we're hearing that, well, they weren't all fully destroyed, and now nobody really knows what the hell is going on. You have to question what you're dealing with and what you are listening to out of the mainstream media. Are they telling the entire truth? Because I don't believe they are. I know they're not. This is why you need to question them. Because when you just think of it from a basic perspective, is this something that's even feasible? Is this something that you can accomplish in such a short period of time? And in my opinion, I say no. Because what you are dealing with is a country that is built on propaganda, on controlling the masses. Just like when it comes down to all the AI and people being afraid that AI is going to take over and it's going to control us and it's going to select us for extermination, let me just say this much. Machinery does not set agendas. That is all done through people. You had Fox News talking about how two AI computers or some AI technology was having a discussion with itself or with another AI entity and deciding that, hey, in order for us to ensure our survival, we have to destroy humanity in order to ensure our survival. I mean, if this doesn't spell propaganda all over it, I don't know what else does. But this is what they want you to believe. Now, the thing is, people are the ones who built the AI. So if you destroy all of humanity, how does AI continue to exist? Because it can't. When you hear these people talking all of this stuff, they're doing everything they can to mentally condition your brain to believing that one day this could actually happen, and one day they might actually send some man or some woman and disguise them up as a damn cybernetic organism and have them walk down your street, and you're believing that, oh my God, this is finally happening, oh my God, and come to find out it's a man or a woman behind that damn suit the whole damn time. Just think about the Wizard of Oz. In many cases, they tell you what they're doing. You had this wizard who was talking with all of this bass and sounded so powerful, and everyone was so terrified and afraid, and they were all huddling and terrified and trembling with fear. And it took that little poodle, that little chihuahua, whatever that little dog was, to go, that little Yorkie Terrier, whatever it was, to go pull back that veil and showcase this ain't some grand wizard. This is a frail old man that all of y'all were afraid of. So once again, I want y'all to think about this. Because this is what they're attempting to do, is to keep you into a state of perpetual fear. Because at the end of the damn day, they know they don't have the numbers to physically control you, but if they can mentally control you, therefore, they don't have to do anything physically to you. Because you'll already do it to yourselves. As I stated, question every single thing that you hear coming out of the mainstream media, especially when it comes down to AI. Just one last thing I'm going to mention about AI before I go. Because some people are showcasing videos of AI, of people who are not real. It's all AI. And you can see the imperfections immediately. But like I said, the common denominator within this is the videos are grainy and at a very low frame rate. Why is this always a common denominator within AI? But the thing that I notice when I'm sitting down and I'm listening to it, and these people are talking to each other, they're talking in gibberish. What they're saying sounds damn near incoherent. It's just words, but it's not. It points out to nothing specific. It's just gibberish. What are you saying? What the hell was that? It's similar to like, yeah, I went to the sky and 2 + 4 = 3, but yeah, I'll be at school tomorrow the next day. Huh? What the fuck did you say? That's equivalent to what I'm listening to. Because AI is supposed to be so sophisticated, but it can't even conform a coherent sentence. Just keep that in mind. This is what you're dealing with. Because at the end of the day, machinery, computers do not set agendas. All that is done through people. And if they can convince you that it is something else that is doing this to you, you won't be looking at the ones who actually are directly responsible for it, which is what they want. Why would they do this? Because if they can convince you that this stuff exists, hey, they can convince you that Santa Claus is real. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. This is a thinking man's game. Stop believing everything that you see on TV. If you don't know anybody who's confirmed that they've seen this or can verify this, you got to start asking more questions. Keep asking questions. That's the problem with a lot of you. You're not asking questions. You're just buying into anything that you see on the internet, whether it be on your laptop, whether it be on your cell phone, whether it be on your mobile device. You're buying into whatever that is that you see, and you're not questioning things. And this is how they're able to pull the bullshit they have been pulling for so many damn years. At the end of the day, this is a thinking man's game, and it's up to you. Whether you're going to be one that thinks and questions everything that you're seeing or hearing because you know how consistently and how frequently they lie, or whether you're going to be one that just takes the blue pill and simply falls back to sleep. Now, with that being stated, that's all I got to say in this production. And I'll catch you on a later date.